Welcome to Botches Off-Road. Join us as we talk about everything from gear reviews to trail stories, tent camping to rock landing, and all things to do with the outdoors. We have a special guest today, Mr. Patrick. How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Patrick's on our MST group that we tend to frequent, and we were just going to chat a little bit tonight and just talk a little bit about what's been going on. Of course, I've been sick and all that, and Patrick said he wanted to get on with us, so that was a perfect opportunity to talk to him and have you and have us tell us a little bit about his rig, and he's got quite the unique one. So why don't we start off with that? What are you driving?
So the short answer is it is a 1988 Toyota 4Runner. So one of the infamous first-gen 4Runners with the removable hard top. The long story is it is a pieced-together truck that started as a two-wheel drive 88 Toyota pickup. It's been engine swapped, solid axle swapped. It has a long story in the roughly 3.5 years that I've had it. It started off as a rusty two-wheel drive, regular cab, short bed farm truck with a seized engine, and it kind of spiraled from there.
Wow. How'd you attack that? I guess for someone who's not super mechanically inclined, all the stuff that you've listed is already pretty like combobulating, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't even know where to start. What did you do first that?
So here's pretty much the story of how this started. So before I ended up with this truck, I had it was an 86 Toyota pickup. It was an extra cab long bed, which is kind of an oddball truck. They were originally sold as just two-wheel drive, just work trucks. They were all pretty much carbureted, and most of them were actually automatics, which is kind of odd. But I had that. I ended up doing a four-wheel drive version to it by getting a four-wheel drive front frame section, splicing the two frames together, and I did that. Well, after an unfortunate accident, basically wrote that one off. I now had a four-wheel drive drivetrain laying around, so I had a wrecked truck with shot frame, and hey, look at this convenient two-wheel drive truck frame over here. So I ended up doing the solid axle swap to that, and I had a regular cab short bed truck. I drove that for a solid year and a half. It was my daily driver too, because I have other cars, but it's just kind of fun to daily drive in old, 80s Toyota. So after a while and a couple cross-country road trips and driving out west of the mountains, I learned that having a barely 100 horsepower 22 RE kind of sucks if you want to drive up a mountain and do anything even near the speed limit. So I had a very beat to shit Tacoma. That was it was a 2010 with a 2TR FE in it. That is the modern 2.7 NA 4-cylinder. It's basically a newer 3RZ. And I was like, there's one guy that had a write-up talking about how they managed to swap a 2TR FE into an 87 4Runner. And I'm like, it's doable. We had the magic mix of what parts you need to bolt it up to the original transmission in the 80s trucks, since the transfer case is on the opposite side from the later ones. So you can't just reuse the Tacoma transmission without a whole bunch of more work because the fucking drive shaft's on the wrong side. Thanks, Toyota, for fucking swapping that, deciding that a passenger side drop through your transfer case makes sense. Fucking nothing uses that. Anyways, though, using 90s Tacoma bell housing and shit, all that'll bolt together. Then we got to the wiring. Quote, this is what the write-up said. The wiring harness in Tacoma is in three pieces. There's a dash harness, an engine harness, and I think there was a taillight harness or something for it. Quote, the wiring's not that bad. And that was it for covering the wiring of the engine swap. So
Jesus.
How did the guy tie it into the 4Runner? I have no fucking clue, because he basically wrote the bare fucking minimum as to how he did the swap. The wiring, which is by far the hardest part of the swap. So I spent a bunch of time looking at the original 4Runner wiring diagram, and Toyota, you throw them, I think it's like $20. They give you a 3-day subscription to all their service literature for everything 1990 and newer. So I was able to pull all the OEM schematics to build my own harness for the swap.
Well, you're on that topic. What was it called?
What, the Toyota service info?
Yeah.
Let me look it up again. fuck is it called? Go to my email. Now I have the purchase receipt.
Enhance.
I think it was through.
Enhance.
I'd like to say it was through. It's TIS. If you look up Toyota TIS, you can find it, and it'll list all the subscriptions you can get. Here, I'll just send you the. This is like the homepage to TIS. Just sent to you via Messenger. It's this fucking website that looks like it's from like 2003. I think it's actually through like Snap-on or something. But yeah, this will give you service info for anything 1990 newer. And if you have the actual special fucking Toyota scan tool, I think you can even like, if you give them enough money, I think you can even like program ECUs and keys and stuff. But you know, I don't really have a need to do that. So I just wanted it for the service info, because trying to do an engine swap like this without good, accurate wiring diagrams is essentially impossible. But
right.
Yeah, I basically managed to marry the truck harness to the I managed to marry the 80s truck harness into the Tacoma engine harness. Because like the other guy that did it, yeah, he made his run and drive, but I managed to pull off a fully functioning emissions system, working factory cruise control, and working air conditioning.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I'm not aware of anyone that's done a 2TR swap that has kept all that.
How did your cruise control, what controls it? Is it the factory control switch, or did the old truck have a cruise control switch?
So the switches that I'm using are the factory 80s Toyota cruise control switch. It's built into the wiper stock, and there's an on-off switch on the dash. Basically, what the newer Toyotas use, because this one's a drive-by-wire ECU, so cruise control is built into the ECU. As long as it has a speed sensor signal, I think like the brake pedal switch and the clutch safety switch, it just has cruise control. There's no any external modules or anything for it. But basically, the original Tacoma cruise control switch, it has one signal wire, and basically it measures resistance to ground depending on which position the switch is in. So I had to measure those resistance values and match them with the stock truck switches, and I had to take apart the on-off switch on the dash so I could backpin the on-off LED, because I wanted that to work, and solder straight onto the on-off switch and the actual dash switch to make it work as if it left the factory like that. So a little bit of reverse engineering to make that work how I wanted it to, but it works perfectly. So nice having good modern cruise control in that. So the vacuum shit that everything in the 80s had, where it's like, yeah, it's better than nothing, but it's not exactly spectacular.
Where you're at, do you have to have working emissions, or is that just an added benefit?
No, I like having functional emission stuff. So the check engine light's off, so if something does actually happen, I know, instead of just having a perpetual check engine light. I think over in St. Louis they do have emissions, but over here in Kansas City, nobody cares.
I know a lot of that you can tune out too and tell it to quit paying attention for emissions.
You can. I've tried to look around for people that can actually play around with the 2TR ECU, but there is very little aftermarket support for them in North America. And I head over to, say, Australia, where they sold a lot more trucks with the 2TR. There's a lot more support for them, but I haven't really had any luck finding anyone in the States that can actually play around with those ECUs.
What year did that engine come out of?
So
2010, right?
So the ECU and all the engine management stuff is from a 2010, and it did have so the 2010 Tacoma, it ended up having a problem with the timing gear. The harmonic balancer came loose, and it cracked the main timing gear and went out of time, and the engine was also burning a shitload of oil. So that truck had an engine put in it from a 2015. I had that for a while until radiator fan hit radiator, and it lost all of its coolant without me knowing. And I absolutely fucking cooked that engine. By the time I knew that something was bad, it had zero compression and a catastrophically blown head gasket. After looking around the pricing of used 2TRs, there's an early and a late one. The 05 to 15 engines all interchanged, and then 16 to 23 is the later one where they had dual VVTi, I think a slightly higher compression ratio, and a few other minor changes. For whatever reason, the newer engines were like a solid $1,000 cheaper than the early ones, because an early engine with 50,000 miles was pulling it's like $4,000 or $5,000 for a used one. Where I was able to find one from a 2022 with 22,000 miles on it for I think it was like $3,000. Actually, no, I think it's like 2,500. And this is a 1-year-old engine with 22,000 miles on it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Why?
I went with that.
Why did you go the 4-cylinder route instead of going with like a 4.0?
I already had a 4-cylinder motor sitting in my driveway, and I was able to keep the original W56. So I don't have to worry about trying to adapt a different transmission in or dealing with, trying to find another transfer case to drop on the other side. I think like 1 or 2 people have done a 4-liter swap, but it's kind of tight to make those fit in these older trucks just because of how small they are. But I believe at least one person's done it because someone asked about that in the first gen 400 group, and apparently someone's pulled it off.
So does your factory transmission bolted directly to the 4-cylinder? Or do you need an adapter?
Basically, so it's Toyota W Series transmission. They have you can swap the bell housing out of it. So it has a bell housing that's meant for a 3RZ, so a 95 to like 04 4-cylinder Tacoma. It has that bell housing on it, which will bolt onto the original W56. And that bell housing will bolt up to the 2 TRFE because they share the same bolt pattern. So
Jesus.
it is all factory Toyota parts.
That is so freaking cool, dude.
From different decades, but
it's crazy.
It has a hybrid transmission now, too. It's a W56, W59 hybrid I built a few weeks ago.
It's like a fucking Johnny Cash song.
Pretty much. Well, the front half of the cab's an 88. The back half's an 85.
I will say, where you welded the cab there, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what you had done there. So you did a very good job.
Yeah, unless you know what you're looking for or look at it pretty close. Like anyone that's done actual body work and like gets up close and looks to it can tell. But like the fact I have straight, door gaps and stuff, I'm proud of that. It was just lining up the spot welds for the cab splice.
Yeah,
well,
the knowledge
looking at it in the dark in a snowstorm, it looked great, man.
Right. Yeah, no, the knowledge, man, behind building something like this. That is just crazy. It's like mind-boggling for me. I can't even think of it.
And I walked the fine line with this too, because the cab, the rear quarters look decent on it, but there's about a 1/2 inch of Bondo in them because the donor at some point was flopped on its side, and you can see about like 20 screw holes where someone like pulled the quarter back out and just kind of filled it in with Bondo, which most people would view that as that sucks. Which I'm not thrilled to have Bondo in the quarters, but first off, it's been there since the 90s, and all of it was still pretty much there. And if you have a first-gen 400 that's pristine, have something worth like $30,000. That's too nice to take on the trails. Right. I don't want something too nice because then I'll never want to drive it. This is the right amount of rough for me to want to actually drive it.
I kind of felt like that with my FJ at first. I was like, man, I'm making payments. This thing's worth a lot. Worth a lot as in I owe a lot on it. And I was like, man, I don't really want to do this. And I took it down a motorcycle trail on accident once and pinstriped the fuck out of it. And then I was like, okay, well, it's good now.
Yeah,
I mean, the upside with the FJ is it's new enough that if if something happened, God forbid, you could go get another one pretty easy. But
yeah, for sure, you can't.
Those gens, man.
Yeah, no, Patrick's. That's that, and it's so Frankenstein and so unique and custom that it'd be really hard to replace anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. It's one of I think there's like 3 or maybe 4 different 2 TRFE swapped like old Toyotas I know of that actually run. There's some guy that has one and it's pretty much just a tube chassis buggy, but he did it. Apparently he did this swap back in like 2007 when like these engines were like brand fucking new. So that is wild too, because at that point in time, the 2 TRFE was a new unknown engine. It had only been in the market for 2 years at that point. So he did that really early on, and that one guy with the kind of crappy write-up.
Wow.
What kind of power does that make?
I believe it's rated at 160 horsepower. It's about a 50 horsepower bump over a 22 RE.
Yeah. Wow. Is that what kind of suspension are you running with it right now?
So it's your standard leaf sprung Toyota. So it has Chevy 63 springs in the back, and I'm trying to remember what the fuck's. I think they're Pro Comp, like 3-inch springs in the front.
Oh,
I think. I don't know. I got them from my friend in Texas, and we're pretty sure they're Pro Comp springs. And then the rear axle is out of a 1990 pickup. It's from a friend who had a rock crawler, is getting switched to 1-tons. Someone else got the front axle, but I got the rear for the low price of load it up and get it out of here. So I got the rear axle for free, and the front axle is out of an 83 pickup.
wow.
So the suspension's a pretty standard solid axle swap, mini
solid
truck.
axle.
Nothing super exotic there.
No, it's cool to have it though. The solid axle swaps are really sick on Toyotas.
I've blown up so many CV axles with various IFS Toyotas. I got really good at swapping them. I will say the 86 to 95 IFS setup. I like that the CV axle bolts onto the diff, but oh my god, what a miserable bitch they are to actually swap the fucking CV axle. So you have to disassemble the entire fucking you have to disassemble the front hub to actually get the CV axle out. Which after you do that 10 times, it gets really fucking old.
The 98s, it's not hard to get them out of the front knuckles, but man, getting them out of that diff, that C-ring just catches it so solid, and it takes a lot of beating to get that thing to come out.
Big hammer and just give it a good hard whack is really the only way to go, and even then, you still have to land the ground.
I'm on rebuild number 3 in the past year, and every time I just hope that my CV axles are fine and everything else is broken.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I did the solid axle swap, because I kept fucking up, this IFS stuff. Like, this shit just got so fucking old with constantly changing shit and fixing it. And, I was blowing up CV axles with fucking 33s. Fucking 22 RE with 33s, and it was fucking breaking CV axles. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And the early IFS setups, they had, a standard steering box with an idler arm. Well, the fucking Toyota idler arms would snap in half too, so you'd lose steering.
I didn't realize
fantastic setup. Yeah, the rack and pinion ones that are later, they don't really have that problem. I mean, people like Twizzler tie rods, but you'd shear the idler arms in half on the early IFS trucks. When I was in Texas the last time, I actually swapped one out for a guy because he had a second gen 4Runner and fucking snapped his idler arm in half.
Wow. Yeah, what's the biggest gripe about it so far? That you just what's something that you're just like, man, if I could change it, a heartbeat.
It's hard to let me think. It's a pretty easy one to change. I really need to change my shocks line because holy shit, they are fucking smoked and it kind of rips shit. It's not even that hard. It's just I have to figure out what I want to buy and cry as I actually buy decent shocks for it. That's the one thing right now that kind of sucks. The shocks aren't great. And I put all the so in the 80s the SR5 trim package was top of the line, fully loaded. There was nothing above it until the 90s when the third gens came out. So it has power windows, power locks, the full gauge cluster, cruise control. One of the gripes I had for the longest time that I rectified this summer was 1980s Toyota air conditioning systems really weren't that great.
Right.
They had tiny condensers, and as soon as you get above 90 degrees out, they're virtually useless. You could try and, even with R12, they just didn't work that well because Toyota had a really undersized system compared to what, domestic manufacturers had at that time. Mm-hmm. I finally said, fuck it. And I pulled a complete HVAC system out of it was an 02 Tacoma that ended up at a pick and pull. Now, the dash was basically one of the only things still intact on this truck by the time I got to it. The bed was gone, the doors were gone, the engine was gone, the transmission was gone, the seats were gone. Every removable body panel that was still good was gone. It was like half of a frame and a cab with a dash still in it. I'm like, well, what I want's still here. So I pulled the whole HVAC system out of that because they use a newer style evaporator core and they have a better blower motor that moves more air. But they shared pretty much the same layout as the original HVAC system in the 80s truck. It also uses electronic controls instead of cables, which got kind of annoying. So that was pretty cool. And I shoved that in basically the same spot the original HVAC box was and got that hooked up. And I have a custom stacked AC condenser set up. and it went from having AC that fucking sucked ass when it got above 90 to when it was 100 degrees out last summer, it would cool down to like 38 degrees where the thermal shutoff is.
Fucking
Jesus.
nice.
It went from wow, this sucks to oh, this is the best air conditioning out of like all my cars right now.
Then you don't even need a fridge. You just keep your shit laying around in the truck.
Yeah,
Beers
you
are always
have a
cold.
fridge, but yeah.
Yeah, when you first pulled in, when you came to my house last week, I was like, dude, you really drove that thing all the way over here.
And that's
But
I sent a message about that too. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's your daily?"
Then I got
Oh.
looking at it and I was like, dude, this thing is freaking dope.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a bunch of the creature comforts that most first gen foreigners don't have. Most people have like a 22 RE with like no AC, no cruise control, manual windows, like the fucking shitty base trim seats and like all that. But the SR5s have like enough of the modern luxuries for them to be tolerable to live with, especially since it has a third gen Forerunner center console with actual cup holders now. That's pretty nice.
To talk about that, just so that Gavin knows, his center console and my mirror came off the same car.
Oh yeah, Benji's.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You should have had him sign it, clear coat that shit.
I mean, I
just the back of my mirror.
I could go back there and have him sign my stuff. He's only a couple hours away.
Benji, sign it.
I need to talk to him. I want to cut the floor section out of his donor where the rear heat unit goes, so I can swap the third gen rear heater into mine and get that functional again. Because I know it goes under the passenger seat, but the floor isn't deep enough on the first gen to actually fit the unit in there. But a bit of metal work definitely doesn't scare me.
So I have one with the working rear heater, and I have one without the working rear heater. And the little bit of benefit that it gives you, it's really not worth all the extra work.
Honestly, the only reason why I kind of want to do this is because it bothers me having rear heat controls that do nothing.
That's fair.
I know they don't really do a whole lot, and the front heater's plenty, but still.
No, that's fair.
I've got one. So my rear heat in my daily, the silver truck, it doesn't work, but the fan blows, so at least you can get air blowing back there.
Right. Well, and your window rolls down, so that's nice too.
I mean, so many of the northern climate third gens too have had the lines to the rear heater rot out, and they've been looped, so they don't even do anything anymore.
Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the black one, that's got the working heater, and I mean, is it a nice added feature? Sure, but it doesn't really blow as hard as you'd expect it to.
Yeah.
Huh.
What's funny too is the earlier rear heat setups. So I've seen what the first gen, second gen, and third gen ones look like. So you've seen the third gen rear heater lines, and they're like fucking tiny. I think they're like a 3/8 line roughly. They're small.
Yeah.
Well, the first gens, they still had like a half-inch heater hose, and holy shit, the amount of heat the first gen rear heaters would make because they had the larger heater hoses. Huh. Like you could turn the rear heat on, and have everything in the front shut off, and within like 10 minutes, you'd be nice and warm without anything on the front HVAC system turned on.
The only nice thing to have rear heat, and I'm thinking this, just having my son in the back seat, because it takes a while for the fucking heat to actually circulate even to the back. The little F2
I mean, not in a third gen.
No, yeah, but
they're so fucking tiny.
Every time I open that, I have to open up my suicide door and my front door and move the passenger seat up to get him in or out. It would have been nice to have maybe like a rear heat or something back there just to keep him a little toasty.
Something that's annoying about the Tercel is the HVAC system Toyota put in those was pretty spectacularly terrible because the heat in it sucks, and it's not that there's anything wrong with it. Because if you watch the Motor Week Rush review for the Toyota Tercel wagon, which they filmed this in the winter, they're like, yeah, the heater really couldn't keep up once it started snowing real heavy. It's like, good to know that these have sucked, as soon as they roll off
from the gap. Yeah.
Floor, they sucked.
Man, look at that seamless segue he just did from his Forerunner Tacoma or Toyota pickup thingy to his Tercel. That was perfect.
Which, I saw a group of Tercels at the dunes that time we did Toyota Takeover.
Yeah,
that was really fun watching those climb the dunes.
Those guys are super
I know all
cool.
those people.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. We were all like, "Wow, Tercels!"
I mean, the Tercel community can't be that big, so I'm sure you know all of them.
Yeah, right.
They're bigger. There's a lot more of them still around than you'd expect. So for the past 5 years now, we've actually had a get together where we do a Tercel meet and greet where we basically convince people to bring their cars out to get together and do some lay off roading. And when we went to Colorado, I think we had 20 of them or something. There was a lot.
Dude, those pictures still amaze me. I have some of those saved somewhere. That was a cool meet.
You should see the expressions from people when they see 20 of these fucking cars in one place.
Yeah,
They're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, somebody needs to swap the body of a Tercel onto something else.
Oh, I've seen several of them dropped on 400 truck frames. One of the guys in the group actually has one on I think it's a 93 pickup frame with a 1UZ.
That would be so cool. I'll have to look at that later.
Well, the next Tercel meet and greet will be in Michigan.
That would be fun
it's
too.
Going to be in September or something, but it's going to be in Michigan, so
that would be cool.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, we would do that.
Can I crash it just to go and see all the Tercels?
We're a very open and inviting group, so that is not a problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure they're hoping to get anybody they can get at that point.
We'll come as the media crew and get some media passes, some fake ones made up.
Fresh off your printer at home.
Yep. No, that's cool. How long have you had the Tercel?
So I got this one about 2 months ago. I picked it up pretty recently. It's a 86 SR5, so it was a very fancy car for its day. And the reason why I wanted this one in particular is it has the very rare, very hard to find factory cruise control. So the Tercels were built from 83 to 88. 88 was kind of a split year. They only sold them for, I think, the first couple months into 1988 before they replaced it with the Corolla all-track wagons. But 86 through 88 were the only years you could get factory cruise control on them, and it was a very rarely ordered option and not exactly something that's easy to swap into another car. And this one had it, which, the body was in decent shape. Interior was fucking rough, but, the body was solid, and it was a very original car. Someone swapped an engine in it at some point. It has one from, I think, an 83 or an 84. When was it swapped? I have no clue. Why was it swapped? I have no clue. But it has been swapped at some point for some reason. But yeah, it's a factory cruise control car. Has air conditioning. They never had power windows or power locks, but may find a way to make that change. And I've now swapped out all the seats. It has another dash swapped in it. I took basically the whole front of the car apart just to clean it, and because it was parked outside. The last registration sticker was 2006. It was parked outside with a horrific windshield leak. So the headliner was growing mushrooms on it. The carpet was green. Nice. The seats were green. And there was just a healthy layer of just mold on basically every part of the interior of this car. It was bad.
You're giving me anxiety, and I need to go check my 442.
Yeah.
The good news is yours wasn't parked for well over a decade, so you should be fine.
I'm just at 2 years so far.
Actually, I would check yours because Sienna's dad's got a Saab. What is it? I forget what it was. 9 something. And he had that parked for not even 2 years. And I went to open it up because I was going to take pictures to sell it. The whole inside, it was like powder, just mold everywhere on every surface. And I closed the door and I'm like, I think I might die in the next 24 hours. And I looked at Leo and I said, dude, we're going to have to open every door of this and just take a leaf blower to it before we do anything. Get all that shit out of there. Cause it was nasty. We closed the doors and we haven't even talked about it since. It was bad, dude.
That is bleach on the interior of the Tercel.
Yeah.
That is my biggest fear with that car because I know I can't afford to fix it. I haven't found all the parts yet. But God, if I just found something like that inside it, I'd probably cry.
My biggest fear for you is mice. Just tearing apart your fucking wiring harness or something.
That's already a problem. The main wiring harness has been chewed through. I got to rip it all out and rewire it.
Yeah, that's
I found a
yeah,
couple
I
mouse
couldn't-
nests in the Tercel too,
couldn't
which
do it.
was absolutely not a surprise at all.
Yeah,
They
no,
only
not at all.
chewed like one headlight plug like under the hood, like that was it. I'm like, you know what? Now that is fine.
I did. I took
so.
out my cabin air filter here because I hadn't changed it pretty much since I bought the truck, and I took my cabin air filter out in the I would say a couple months ago. There was acorns and all sorts of shit. There's something bringing it in there, and I'm like, oh, well, that might be why I got some weird smells coming in my truck.
Yeah, there was a
That
mouse
and,
nest in the blower motor of the Tercel, and the blower motor was
Yep.
seized solid.
yeah, it's got bones in it.
Yeah, I need to get to that car. I think I'm going to do that in the spring just because at least pull the motor and go through it again and make sure it's okay. Because
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
scared to death.
yeah, I would at least go through it and refresh it. I mean, just to make sure. Like I'll do that with Littlefoot, the '94 Chevy. I'll go through that every once in a while and just kind of clean it up, blow it out, make sure everything's ready.
I will say, I'm of the opinion of if you have some, something older than like the 80s or 90s, it's usually in your best interest. Like, if you really want to drive the shit out of something, put a bunch of miles on it, it's like rip the Band-Aid off, pull the engine, at least re-gasket it, and, make sure it's in good shape, do rings or bearings or whatever. It's like not necessarily machine work, but go through it because otherwise you'll have an engine where it's like, yeah, it's great. And 20,000 miles later, it's like, wow, everything that can leak oil this is great.
Yeah.
See, I bought my 442 in, I want to say 21. It had about 80,000 miles on it. And all I did was fix an injector, pump out the old gas, put new gas in it, and I put almost 30,000 miles on it before the oil pump quit. It still doesn't leak anything, but the oil pump is bad.
It's such a weird thing to fail.
It's timing driven, so probably the timing failed.
I was gonna say that's a strange failure. That's like I'll do like one of two things. I'm of the opinion of either go all out and do everything or don't touch a fucking thing.
Yeah,
I'll do one
I
or
feel
the
that.
other. Is my Pontiac, I haven't really done anything to the engine on it, but it's a 3800, so they're pretty stout. It's a Series 1, so it doesn't have the fucking intake gasket problems or the stupid coolant elbows.
You should swap a quad 4 in that just because quad 4s are freaking cool and they're so much faster than the 3800.
If I were to get a quad 4 one, I would import a Eurovan that left the factory with a quad 4 in it.
That'd be fun.
That'd be cool too.
yeah, that'd be fun. What Pontiac do you have?
It's a 1993 Pontiac Transport van.
Oh, okay.
But yes, the Euro market Pontiac Transport was available with the quad 4 and a 5-speed manual.
I now want one. That is fucking awesome. I really want to pick up a first gen S10. I think it's a first gen, like a 91 S10.
Yeah,
and I want to pick up.
Yeah, that was still first gen, late first gen, but first gen.
And then I want to pick up a 91 Bravada and put a quad 4 in the S10 and make it look like a Bravada pickup.
That would be so cool.
Right? Put the whole Bravada front end so it looks like the Bravada in the front. Do like Bravada badging on the tailgate and paint it like you would a Bravada, but then power it by an actual Oldsmobile engine with like, I don't know, a 5-speed or something. It'd be a cool little truck.
The Bravadas were so neat, but there were so few of them out there.
I had to go double check the look to make sure the Transport was what I thought it was. Man, I forget about these things. They're so ugly, they're cool. Like, they look like Pinewood Derby cars.
You say they are a love it or hate it design. There are people that think they are the ugliest thing GM has ever made.
Oh, they are ugly.
That's my wife.
Yeah, they're ugly, but there's things, and that's what I like. Is like there are things that are so ugly that they're damn cool. And like that, and like that's how I saw the FJ at first. Is like I thought it was the ugliest thing ever, and then it was like, all right, I kind of like it now. It's growing on me.
Part of the reason why I like the Transport vans is they are very similar to what the original concept car looked like. They didn't deviate too far from the original concept car.
So I just sent you guys both a link. This is the Bravada that I was trying to buy when I bought my 3rd gen, and the guy, no matter how much I messaged him, would not respond to me.
So cool. Oh, it even has a Digidash.
Yeah,
the
dude.
Digidashes were the coolest fucking thing.
The Turbo
I wanted-
Forerunners had a Digidash, but they're really rare to actually find.
I wanted this truck so bad because it would look so good parked next to my 91 442.
Yeah.
God, it would parked being the operative word, but that's funny. No, I love that. That is cool. I'm not a big like Oldsmobile guy. I guess you know they are what they are. They're cool, but I would have to say this is pretty cool.
I'll put a link of this in the show notes just so that everyone sees it. But I would have definitely wheeled the hell out of this thing, and that smart track would have been so pissed at me the whole time.
Oh, yeah. I remember it was my 3rd and 4th grade teacher. She had a Bravada like that. And even as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Because like I had never really seen one before.
Aren't those like really similar to like what are they, the older Explorers, the 94 Explorers?
S10 Blazers.
Is it the
It was basically a up-badged, fancier S10 Blazer. I think it was supposed to kind of compete with, because Ford was starting to make more luxurious versions of the Explorer. So I think that was
the Mercury line.
Yeah, that was GM's attempt to kind of compete with them, but obviously it didn't really work that well, seeing as they didn't really sell many of them.
Well, they would have if they just put a quad 4 in it.
Okay, I am thinking of the Ford Explorer just being that boxier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the Typhoon still the coolest out of those.
The Typhoon is an S10 Blazer, so
I know.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
The
I'm just saying. I just think out of all of them, I really liked the Typhoon. I thought it was very cool.
So this
I wonder how different, because the Typhoon's what, supercharged or are those turboed?
Turboed. They're turboed. So this is a Euro Transport with a quad 4 in it.
All right, that sounds sick.
I think it was one of the lowest horsepower quad 4s like of the lineup, but it is, a factory quad 4.
Excuse me.
5-speed.
Yeah, that is a quad 4 LO, so a low output.
Yeah, I think it was the one that was used in the Grand Am, I think.
Well, the Grand Am also got a high output, so maybe I'd have to see better from the top of it, but it might be a high output, which would be freaking sick.
No, these had the low output version, unfortunately.
Oh, lame.
Yeah, let's put the low output version into a minivan. What could possibly go wrong?
As terrible as the quad 4 is, as a quad 4 owner, I'll come out and tell you they're fucking terrible. But they are the coolest thing that GM ever did. Like, they're just, they're so fun they sound cool. They look cool.
And it was GM's first actually like modern 4-cylinder engine too.
Yep.
Yes, this is a Typhoon is powered by a 4.3 L LB4 V6.
Yeah, they were the turbocharged ones.
280 horse.
Imagine that Bravada that I sent with a Typhoon engine in it. Oh, that'd be so cool.
Sick. The engine uses a Mitsubishi TD06 turbocharger.
That's one of the wildest swaps that I've seen there's a guy in Canada who had a early Lumina APV. I think it was like a 90. Well, apparently he didn't like TDI 3.1 and wanted something with better fuel economy. So he got his hands on a front-wheel drive 4.3 diesel and swapped it in. I'm like, damn it, I had that idea. Someone else beat me to it.
Damn.
I really want to get one of the front-wheel drive 4.3 diesels, but God, they're so fucking hard to find. Nobody trusted the Oldsmobile diesels by the 80s, so they did not sell many of them. And for some reason, 85 horsepower V6 diesels weren't exactly, a big seller for GM.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't imagine.
Well, when you took a 350 and tried to make it a diesel and it ran like crap, no one's going to trust you after that.
Which is sad because the later ones weren't nearly as atrocious as the early ones, and the 4.3 diesel wasn't actually it still went off some design cues of the 350 diesel, but they like added more head bolts to them, and I think 84s even had the actual fuel water separator like they fucking should have had from the factory. But like by the time they started to actually get half decent, GM pulled the plug on it, and that was dead. Typical GM. Oh, hey, it's starting to get kind of good. Never mind. Stop.
Yeah.
There was quite recently, I saw an Oldsmobile diesel for sale here in Michigan. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you.
They show up every now and again. The 350s usually aren't that hard to find. It's the like A bodies with the 4.3 are the really hard to find ones, and I think the C bodies did in 84 only, but like those are like insanely rare. I've seen like a grand total, I think 2. One was a Cadillac, one was an Olds 98, and like they were, I think it was only like the first like 3 months of production you could get it with that engine, and that's when GM pulled the plug on production. It was like some guy that like had one for sale right now, but wants like $10,000 for it, which like who in their right mind would fucking pay that much for it? It's like, yeah, it's rare, but rare doesn't equal valuable. Is it worth a little more with the really rare engine? Yeah, a little more. Not that much more. Like, how sweet car you can't get any fucking drivetrain parts for.
Yeah. How hard would it be to do like now? Since we're talking about diesels, because I'm kind of curious. With your knowledge, how hard would it be to like diesel swap that your truck? Would you even think about it? Are you cool with what's there?
When I was still playing around with 2-wheel drive trucks, I actually got really close to it. As in, I actually bought a Toyota L diesel from an '82 pickup, and all the stuff for this is still sitting in my parents' basement. I was really close to swapping one of those in, and then I did when I started playing around with 4-wheel drive stuff, went, maybe a 76 horsepower diesel isn't the best idea after all, especially since you can't really get any parts in North America easily. But I got really close to playing around with the Toyota diesels, and I decided that really low horsepower NA diesels are probably not the most practical thing.
Right. You still have that little diesel sitting around?
Yes, it is in the basement of my parents' house.
Jeez, that's funny.
How cool would that be in my generator, though?
Actually,
it'd be cooler in a Tercel. It would be so cool in a Tercel.
That engine would be huge, and unfortunately, it'd be basically impossible to actually make it fit the Tercel transmission.
Right.
I think it was like the 1C Toyota diesel, like actually matches the bell housing bolt pattern, but I think like the starter's on the wrong side or something because someone got one, it bolted up to the transmission, and I don't think they were able to figure out a starter motor that would like actually work for it. But I think that was the one engine that actually shared the same bolt pattern as the Toyota A series engines. 4AGE swaps are pretty common on them. My roommate has a turbo 4AGE and a first gen Tercel, which has the same transmission as the later ones. And I know there's several people with 4AGE swapped wagons, which if I find a rear wheel drive 4AGE, might just happen because EFI would be kind of nice, and going from 62 horsepower to doubling it at 120 would be pretty cool too.
All right, completely off topic, but I just found an N-body Baja car that someone built.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I am going to send this to you because you will love it. Sorry, I happened to see it because I'd looked up N-body stuff just a second ago, and it was like top of the Google listing.
Ew.
What the fuck? That is cool.
Isn't it?
I like anything that's different.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why
I like anything that's N-body.
That's why I tend to fall into the off-road groups with all the oddball and weird shit, because like seeing 8 different fucking moderately built 5th gen foreigners in a row gets kind of boring after a while. It's like, wow, they're all pretty much the same.
Yep.
That's, as much as I love Mark, don't take this as a slam, Mark, when you do listen to this. That's kind of where I'm at with like 2nd and 3rd gen tacos. Everyone has a 2nd or 3rd gen taco.
Yeah.
They're not bad, but they're just it's really hard to make one of those unique. The only real way to do that is to like put 1 tons under them.
Yep. Right. When I first bought the FJ, I thought I was being very unique, and that slapped me in the face very quickly when I started getting on these forums, and it was like, if you want to do it, it's been done. Like, they like FJs were like so they were already in it quite a bit by the time that I was even.
Well, the numbers of them are dwindling though. You don't see nearly as many FJs now as you did a couple years ago.
And mine's in really good condition, engine and body wise. I would yeah,
it is.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's
paint doesn't matter.
Right, 147,000 miles, virtually rust free. I mean, it's got surface rust, but it's a good condition for what it is. And
I think anything 4-wheel drive Michigan that's not rusty means either A, it's not from there, or B, someone bought it, never drove it. Like,
yeah, the guy that I bought it in probably 3 years ago now, and the guy who had it before kept it in the garage all year. So and would never drive it in the winter. Had another car for that. So it supposedly had never seen a winter, and I could believe it. But which is just so weird for an FJ not to see winter though. But I don't know. It's he just so happened that the guy that I bought it in I can't remember the city. What's that city? Oh, Holland. I bought it in Holland, and just so happens the guy lived in Newaygo that owned it. And I was like, "Oh, you're going right back home, buddy."
That's wild.
Yeah, so drove it 2 hours back home, and that's why I started looking on the groups. I'm like, well, I got to find some off-road groups. I got to get this experience down now, and I'm like, can't wait, man. I finally found this unique truck I wanted since high school. And then I get on and everyone's got one. And I'm like, oh man, that's all right. And then I start driving around and I see them everywhere now. And I'm like, motherfucker.
The third gens are cool because they're older.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's no documentation on them because people have done lots of stuff with the third gens, but they're unique enough that when I go to do stuff, I'm kind of blazing my own path every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I'm not completely in the dark.
I was going to say, it's pretty much all been done for the FJ.
It's fun I guess in the dark when you have something like a Tercel wagon where the popularity of them was in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Originally, when I had my 06 Baja, I was really wanting to like turn that into an overlanding vehicle. And in a way that had never really been done in the fashion that I wanted to do it. But once I had my son and I realized I can't even fit a car seat in the back seat, that kind of changed things. So I ended up selling that, which, by the way, that subframe was literally rotted out to Swiss cheese. So I sold it for, I think, $1,200. And, I think rarity was the only thing that got it up that high.
God, I swear Subarus, like, up north, they're either, like, fucking suspiciously clean and rust-free or, like, comically rusty, and there's very little in between. It's either, the subframe's, one bump away from falling off, or, wow, this thing looks brand new.
Yeah, from the outside, the body was all plastic, so from the outside, it looked completely rust-free and great, but you looked under it, and that was part of my issue, is I had it for probably 6 years, had 267,000 miles on it, and I had it for probably 6 years, and I looked under that thing only when I had to fix it, pretty much. And when I looked at it this summer, because someone wanted me to take pictures of the rear, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm trying to sell this thing for $2,500. I lowered
the price on the marketplace listing now.
I lowered it, and I'm like, God damn.
Parts only.
Yeah, I lowered it to 2 because I knew people were going to Jew me down to like, 15 or something. And I'm like,
basically, whatever. Can I get more than the fucking junkyard will pay?
Exactly. So I was like, I'll take anything. But they gave me 12, and I ended up using that to buy some upgrades for the FJ, like radio. And if you ask my wife what I ended up spending $1,200 on for the FJ, I don't even remember. It was all little things.
I'm so happy I live on the edge of the Rust Belt now where, I can find older stuff and it's not completely fucking rotted into the fucking ground unlike everything else in Michigan because, like, the Tercel is, like, fucking spotless underneath. There's, like, 2 rust spots in the rockers and, like, a little bit, like, rust, like, the door bottoms, but, like, it's nowhere near as, like, catastrophically rusty as a Michigan car would be.
Oh, yeah. No, like I said, I wanted to overland the shit out of the Baja. And I really liked it because of the fuel economy. It was a weird looking pickup truck car. I thought that would be so cool, but
So
no, it was not destined.
back to Subies a little bit. When I was in high school, I had a buddy his dad daily drove an 06 STI, right?
Yep.
And this would have been probably 2012 is when I start remembering things about this car. But in 2012, it was already rotted into the fucking ground, dude.
Oh,
6-year-old car just rotted the hell out.
Yeah. I would say that was like their biggest flaw, even above head gaskets. Like I say this, like I know the guy that had it before me. I was a second owner. The only thing he ever did was basic maintenance and a timing belt. And that was it. So when I bought it, I had it for probably 2 years. And finally it started to leak oil after I took it to a place in Fremont and they overfilled it and put 1030 instead of 530. That was a whole thing. Finally started to leak oil then and blew a head gasket. They took the engine out, replaced the head gasket, the water pump, the belt, all the stuff that you usually do, the idler pulleys, put it back in like 13 hours and had my car running again so I could go to work the next day. And had zero issues with it ever since until I would say last year or so. Well, once I bought the FJ, I wasn't driving it much anyway, and it just became kind of a yard truck, basically. Drive it around, load wood in it, drive it around, dump it, like a little K truck. But yeah, at that time, I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to drive it. I'm not going to overland it. Not going to do anything with it. So I'm just going to sell it because at that point, it was just money that I could have. So
Japanese stuff in general, like up until like very, very recently, and hell, stuff hasn't even been long enough or around long enough to see how it'll hold up. But like Japanese cars in general has always fucking struggled.
I just don't think I just don't think they were made for that. I mean, designed with that in mind. But
if you go back to the 80s, the life expectancy of a car was significantly shorter versus now.
Very much.
Even if you look at cars in Japan, dude, they're always rotted the hell out from just being in that salt all the time.
Yep.
And it's because Japan still has the expectation of like every couple of years you get a new car. They don't really like. There's a guy in the Tercel group that's over in Japan where he's been buying parts from the U.S., importing them to Japan to fix his Tercel because he can't get parts for it locally because there's like none of those cars left.
God, I was just reading about a company, and it was like, or not a company, a country. I don't want to say it's the Philippines. It's something. But they have a law that they after every couple of years you actually have to like. Do you know what I'm talking about? You actually have to like get a new car.
Korea, they have to pay.
Rule.
Korea, if it's older than 10 years, they have to pay insane insurance.
Yeah, 10 years or something like that. Yeah.
I know Japan's really strict on it. It was like something that emissions related or something where once cars go
crazy
5 or 10 years, they're really strict.
Yeah, I have to look that up later. But
one of my favorite memories from Korea, we were in the back of an LMTV and a dude, I have a picture somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. A dude pulls up behind us in like a 94 YJ, right? And he's all in his little Korean business suit looking all fancy and stuff. And we're on the expressway and we're in a traffic jam. And he just turns right and drives up a freaking mountain in his business suit.
God.
And you know that the dude's rich because he's paying like $3,000 a month in car insurance.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, with the guys with the older stuff like that, you already know. That's really cool. This Jeep, it had like all these Korea off-road and all these other badges on it. And he's in a freaking business suit looking all fancy. I will say on that Korean off-road note, like I've seen some of these Asian off-road groups. I'm not sure where they're really centralized. But like FJ groups, and man, are those fucking cool to watch. Those guys mod the shit out of their FJs, and then they beat the crap out of them too. It's cool to watch.
Yeah, I watch them go through. Them have made their way down to like Central America and stuff, and every now and then you'll find a couple of them over in like Russia and stuff too.
Yeah,
most of them are in North America, but a few of them have ventured a bit further away from there.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I like a lot of people are doing the same thing, especially with FJs too. And I'm trying not to fit that mold like 100% cookie cutter.
Do
But
something a little different.
yeah, but at the same time, what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, I have to kind of conform a little bit to it. And we were talking about that. Me and Alex were talking about that the other day about going into. I wanted to do custom drawers and stuff in the back of mine, and we were kind of talking about me looking into Milwaukee for just the fact that I could, take the pack outs out of the back and switch them for different seasons, different outings and stuff like that. And while that's not a bad idea, at the same time, if I want to do the year round, I'm weighing the pros and cons right now. And
I only see pros.
Yeah, you will. Yeah. But it's hard because with my son in there, because if I took the rear seats out, there would be no problem at all.
Yeah, but you don't have to if you do pack outs.
Well, that's not necessarily. It's just a space issue in general for how I want to set up. With the kitchen and being completely self-reliant through the FJ, it's tough with a kid because of the space he requires.
I desperately need drawers for my 4Runner because right now I have the loosely throw all my crap in the back and just do that. Which dude, I guess it kind of works.
Yeah.
Listen to our pack out episode. It's called "Is That a Contractor Truck?"
Yeah.
Me and Mark go through all the reasons pack outs are perfect for that.
Yeah, and then I was talking to Alex about it, and we're like thinking about, we could put we could actually mount these pack outs upside down and have like quick grabs and stuff, and like so I'm seeing it, and I think there's a place for pack outs. I don't think that they're useless. I don't think that there's no place for them in my gear. I just think that I'm going to try to incorporate both because I could use that door. You know where my door swings out?
Yeah.
If I put pack out mounts on my door and put out like quick grab pack out stuff, that would be really nice. But
I think
we'll see.
That you get stuck on the fact that you have a kid. I wheel with dogs and they take up the entire back seat. So I actually end up with less space than what you've got, even with the kid.
No, I mean, I would say by law, I'm required to have the seat bolted, down into a certain way. I feel with the dogs, they're a little bit more fluid as you can move them around to different places. But I have to have him fit in a certain way.
And not with 2 dogs and a 3rd gen, dude. I don't have room for that. I got to leave my entire back seat and entire floor empty.
Well, and I don't know. I would say that I have to leave my entire back seat for just my son, and then he requires with changes of clothes, food, etc. At least the whole rest of the back seat. So to me, I would say that I get hung up on it because it's a big deal.
It is.
As far as you know what I mean. It's I get hung up on it because it's a big detail, and depending on how I want to do things, really depends on how because we've like looked at different car seats to try to fit behind Sienna so that I could delete or swap because there's like the 2-person bench and like a single. And I was going to swap the 2-person bench to the left and move the single to the right. And then, or just delete the 2-person and then move the single to the right. That way we could sit right behind Sienna. But at that point, his feet are in the headrest and it's just very hard. So, we'll work on it. It's not, I like the challenge of it. And I think with just how I have it now, we can make it work. We just gotta, like I said, we're just gonna move some stuff when we put the rooftop tent on. We're gonna just move some more stuff to the top. Plus, I have a lot of stuff in the Pelican and stuff up top that I really don't need all the time. And those are just like electrical, the grinder, all a bunch of spare tools that like never touched once this summer. So it's like, I mean, and I know you'll need them when you need them, but
The
at the same
second
time,
you take something out, the next trip you will need it. Guaranteed.
yeah. I mean, I have like
I-
a full electrical, like, doing electrical wiring kit, multimeters, grinders, impact.
I
Be like,
only hear of
random
things that
bolt.
you should keep in
For me,
there.
it'll be like, oh look, there's this random bolt here. Oh, let me just throw it in the garage. Next trip,
No,
son of a
yeah.
bitch, I need it.
Oh no, I'm not saying that I should get rid of all of it. I'm just saying that I need to move it or
Yeah.
consolidate it to
Yeah.
most used things
I
instead
mean, I
of
run.
leaving full kits.
I've got a grinder, an impact, a drill, full electrical kit with multimeter. And I mean, if you're mostly running in a group, I hate to say this, but you can kind of lean on other people a little bit.
Yeah, that's where mine came in. Is I was over preparing because I was doing a lot of solo at first, but
I do very impulsive trips.
Yeah.
where I'm doing a bunch of solo stuff. Where I'm like, I'm bored. I'm gonna just start driving north, fucking now. That's pretty much what happened with when I was wandering around, over there. It's like, yeah, there's trails over here. I'm kind of curious to see what they're like. I've heard about them. And I
Yeah.
ran it up. I don't even know where the hell I found this map, but I'm like, well, I downloaded these trails from fucking somewhere. Let's see what they look like.
Where did how do you camp? I mean, I'm assuming you do the whole camping thing. Do you just camp in the back of yours?
Yep, twin mattress thrown in the back.
Nice.
I have had
And
a ground
what do you
tent. I have had a rooftop tent, and I've now had this.
Yeah. Well, what do you have any like certain preferences for cooking or anything like that, or
I have
do you
just
kind
a
of run it
basic.
pretty bare bones?
I have a basic camp stove and cookware and stuff. I usually don't bring it with me unless I'm on like a long trip. If it's like a day or two, I usually don't really bother to bring a whole lot of stuff with me because I'm like, screw it.
Right.
Butter and jelly's fine, but I do have
Yeah,
like
I can't wait for that.
cookware and stuff. But that's basically reserved for the like 3 or 4 plus day long trips
Yeah.
when I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. No. We have a fridge that I like that. I mean,
I do have a fridge that is 100% like one of my favorite things to have because like being able to have food where it's not fucking swimming in ice water is incredible.
yeah, I love it. I really enjoy that as well. But for the price of it, I think within the next 2 years I'm gonna switch to a different size because I think mine's like a 39 quart or something like that. And
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love my 44 quart pack out cooler. It is perfect for me.
He's got a cooler. So me and Alex are team fridge versus team cooler. So that's why I love having him as a friend and stuff and running around because he gives very good complete opposite views of everything that everything I do basically.
I'm of the opinion of coolers are fantastic for drinks, fridges are fantastic for food.
Yeah.
So like we did when we went down to Missouri, we just had my Milwaukee cooler. We only had a small bag of ice and then it kept itself cold just based on the stuff we put in it.
Yeah, like just freezing.
Yeah, if you have a good cooler too, that makes a big difference. If you have like a really shitty, like poorly insulated one, that sucks.
But I had like a $35 one from Menards. It was hollow. That thing sucked balls.
I've
Didn't even have a drain.
And just like fill them with spray foam. They were like actually pretty good.
I've seen people do that.
The Milwaukee one, I will say, is top notch. I mean, you pay for it. It was like $250 fucking dollars, but it's a very, very good fridge, and it's very thick and very well insulated. Or fridge cooler. I had another one that I think I paid $100 for that I've been rocking for the last like 10 years, and it's like 108 quart cooler, and it doesn't keep ice cold forever. But just the bulk of shit you can carry in it was always fantastic.
Yeah, that's nice. I think my biggest thing was the sweating and the soggy and the constant like upkeep for us because, like I said, we were running a cheap cooler, so it was constant draining, and our lunch meat was always full of water. the eggs were always fucking water. Everything was cold.
Yeah, that's
Everything
why I
was
like having a fridge, just so like for
yeah.
food and stuff. Usually I'll have like a cooler for drinks and then a fridge for whatever food I have.
Yeah,
We
I think that's probably the best way. I think having a small drink cooler and then a fridge is probably
Yeah, because
the
like you
best of
don't
both.
need like your bottled water or whatever in the fridge that shit can
right.
go in a
No.
cooler. Because if it get, oh no, my water is wet. Whatever will I do?
Yeah, right.
Well,
No,
and if you instead of using ice, if you freeze water bottles,
Oh
that
yeah,
works
that works
really
really
well.
well too. Yeah, I've done that
yeah.
before.
Yeah, but then it still sweats, and that's like the biggest thing that sucks for me, but
Yeah,
other than that, no. I mean, it's obviously it's livable, it's creature comforts, At the end of the day, if I wanted to live off of ramen and peanut butter sandwiches, I could, but I do. My wife is a foodie. She likes to eat good food when we're out, and that's one of
Oh,
the winning the winning arguments that I have is that if she goes out camping with me, we will always eat decent
yeah.
food.
On that
So,
subject, Gavin, I am looking at picking up a dehydrator so we can make our own dehydrated meals. It pays for itself in about one trip with 3 people.
oh yeah, I figured. Dehydrated meals are great. I love dehydrated meals. I eat the crap out of dehydrated meals.
one thing I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of, since I live further south where the summer feels like hell outside day and night, is 12-volt air conditioning. Since 12-volt AC compressors went from being astronomically expensive to just regular expensive, trying to figure out a way to realistically have a 12-volt AC setup for camping, because 90 degrees at night with 70% humidity kind of sucks.
You just got to make
Dude,
your own. I mean, your engine, you are like smart enough that you can make your own AC condenser and everything, and
I
have it
know
just
I can.
run.
It's just a question of where do I want to shove all this stuff so it's not like
Yeah,
directly in the way.
just grab an RV AC, put it on your roof, and build some kind of crazy cage for it to protect it.
Yeah, I've thought about those, but like, God, they're fucking expensive.
And there's
they're.
you can get them cheap
you-
in part outs. Not
Yeah, I
too
was gonna
long ago,
say.
there was one for like $100.
I just go and find some scrap yards or something and rip one out of there.
True, that's really hasn't crossed my mind before. I'll have to keep my eyes open, because I would not be opposed to cutting up a hole in my hard top, because first gen 400 hard tops are not exactly difficult to obtain.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't.
I mean,
And it's not like it would take much either, AC wise.
No. That's the other thing a bunch of people forget about too with AC. It's like once you get to night, once you lose the heat load from the sun,
yep.
you don't need nearly the cooling
Yeah.
capacity as you do in the day.
No, I like the idea of AC, but I don't. For Michigan, we don't need it.
No,
I
not
have
at
a
all.
battery powered fan that we had all summer that worked great just to move some air around
Yeah,
in the
Michigan's
tent.
not too bad at night, even in the summer, unless it's like you're going through like a heat wave or whatever. It's not brutal,
Yeah.
but yeah, down here, it's not uncommon to have 90 degrees at night.
Yeah, I
Been-
couldn't do that.
I've been
I am
burned by that before.
I am the biggest baby when it comes to heat. If it's like if when I go to bed, if it's like above 75, I'm throwing a fucking temper tantrum.
You say
I
the
see it.
other option, which is the relatively easy one, but would be inverter generator plus window unit plumbed into your tent, truck, or fucking whatever.
The easiest option that I haven't heard you say yet is a Milwaukee cooler with the lid open and a battery powered fan pointing towards you. There's your
Usually what I do in the summer. It's
cold
like,
AC right
I'm
there.
traveling south. Let's book a hotel.
Yeah.
What
no
about?
shit.
Don't they have like AC or propane ACs?
I know they have some really. They have some
No propane
camping
pretty good.
ACs.
I don't know if I've seen an actual like AC unit set up with that, but I don't see why it wouldn't work, because propane is a fantastic refrigerant with one downside, the incredible flammability.
Yeah.
But you're already in a car. Like, come on.
I can't. Oh, can't you just shake it up a little bit and just stuff it in your sleeping bag? That's
Yeah.
a joke.
Just
Kinda.
let out some AC and shove the can in, or some propane and shove the can in your.
I don't know, when I was using the buddy heater on our trip, by the time it took probably 5 minutes of that buddy heater running, and that can started getting cold, and then when it would go out, there was complete frost all around it, and I would have to unstick the can from the tent. That was pretty cool.
Propane and butane both work really well as refrigerant. If you look around online, you can every now and again you'll find it's called R12A, which is a butane propane blend that's sold as a drop-in replacement for R12. Not a huge fan of that stuff, but it does have.
I've
literally
I've literally seen videos of guys replacing their AC stuff with propane.
As an AC snob, I try to steer people away from that, but it absolutely will work as a refrigerant.
Ice.
Pure propane has a higher operating pressure than R12 or R134A. So the people that are dumping this into questionable condition leaking systems from the 80s, that's where I'm like, don't know if I'd recommend this.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I usually steer people away from like R12A or just propane, because 9 times out of 10, it's someone shoving it into some fucking 40-year-old original AC system that said fucking nothing done to it. It's like, this is a bad idea. Especially since you're like, oh, well, there's like a gas tank out. And you're like, dude, you put like 4 pounds of propane in your AC system. Like, there's a lot of shit that can happen with that amount of, flammable gas / liquid.
Also, I was trying to remember what the company was named. The Zero Breeze is the Overland Tax AC unit. It costs probably as much as everything that you've ever done to your truck.
I actually just watched a video about how they're fucking terrible.
Oh, well, this is what I'm saying. Everything that I ever see that I think is like decent, Alex is like my opposing force. He helps keep me grounded. Because I've seen like 3 videos and the guys were like, I love my Zero Breeze. I live in Arkansas. It's fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of research because I'm kind of anti the whole overland tax thing.
Oh, so am
I heavily look into that stuff because I always think, man, I can build that for less than what they're charging.
Yeah, same way. I rarely buy anything that has the word overlanding attached to it.
Right. No, I think, I don't know what it is. I think it's like some algorithm bullshit, because I try to vet out these two and look. I will literally go onto YouTube and look up. For instance, I will look up Zero Breeze problems, Zero Breeze issues. I will look that up and go through shit like that, and then still come out with like a better opinion of it as an overall than like, but then somehow like Alex will find something that's like super fucked up about it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I spend hours on this. I have no idea.
Oh, by the way, this thing has this like huge inherent like design flaw that makes it terrible.
Yeah, it's like I will look for hours. I look for videos of people talking dog shit on it, and then somehow it never fails.
You know how many times I've bought cars?
It's the equivalent
I've researched this is good, and then I immediately go, oh look, there's this big fucking like expensive ticking time bomb in it that couldn't find a fucking thing about until after you fucking bought it.
It's the equivalent of me like walking outside and going, oh fuck, the sky's really blue today, and then Alex is like, actually, it's not.
I learned
that like, god damn it, dude.
Timing chain problems when I dropped an oil pan and found plastic chunks in the bottom. I'm like, the fuck is this? They're like, oh yeah, don't you know, like all 22 hours at like 200,000 miles will like need a timing chain like desperately. I'm like, no, I fucking didn't know this.
And the other thing with Zero Breeze, not to like jump back on it, is apparently their customer service is like hot fucking dog shit.
What was amazing these places? It'll sell like a premium, like ultra expensive product, and then simultaneously have like atrocious customer service.
That is like that to me. I'm like, customer service is like 80% of like retaining customers and sales. Like, I can't understand how people.
Yeah.
What? Save $200 if I buy Zero Breeze from Walmart. Thanks.
So
I don't want it.
It's like why I don't buy Samsung products anymore, because their customer service is the absolute freaking worst.
Well, I feel like you're different because you use Samsung or you use products differently than 90% of the population does. You know what I mean?
So
Like I use it.
Everyone just kind of learned like, oh, we like don't really need decent customer service anymore. We can just get away without it. And like simultaneously, like every big corporation learned that they could just get away with absolutely atrocious customer service and get away with it.
So back in 2018, I bought a Samsung Galaxy book or notebook, whatever, Pro 9, like super expensive laptop, right? Like $1,800 computer. I used it for 3 weeks. Didn't just played a couple games on it, used it for basic web browsing, didn't even put Linux on it. I left freaking Windows on it, and it just fucking died. So I did some research, and it turns out that the graphics card in it likes to fry and short out 2 pins. So I sent it to Samsung to get repaired, and it bounced back and forth between us 4 times. And they kept saying, well, it's your fault because we found a crumb in this speaker grill. And then they'd send it back to me. And then another time, well, in the charger port, we found some dust, and that could cause the problem. And I'm like, you guys are fucking terrible. Well, then, not even 3 months later, my brand new Samsung TV that I spent $800 on, the filter behind it cracked and it turned black. And mind you, this is just a TV hanging on the wall. And I messaged Samsung about it, and they're like, well, we looked up your area and there were some minor environmental vibrations, and that is enough to void your warranty.
Yeah, see, I've never had these issues. Like, this is what all right, so Alex having all these issues with Samsung. I've had Samsung my whole fucking life, basically, in one way or another. And other than me killing my own phones physically on accident, I've never had issues.
Oh, phones are a completely different category.
Well, like even I had a Samsung TV. It still works now. It's fucking probably 5 years old now. Like I just
to accept the fact that pretty much
watches,
anything electronics nowadays, I just assume that like as soon as you buy it, expect to get shafted by the warranty.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. It's just like my I have like an S22, S22 Ultra or something like that, and this thing is fucking stellar. But me and Sam have never had any issues with Samsung to where we were I'm never using it again.
I'm sitting here looking at my 2 Samsung monitors that my old roommate bought, and one of them, half of it flashes every like 2.5 minutes, and I'm like, why did he buy Samsung displays, and why did I get stuck with them?
It's funny.
I think you're just technology cursed.
2016 still works beautifully, and this is one of the cheapest 4K monitors you could buy back then. It still works perfectly.
I think Alex is just technology cursed. I really do.
But it's not everything. I mean, my Fairphone's fantastic. I bought a phone specifically to be able to repair it, and then I never had a reason to repair it.
Those things are sweet.
I don't know.
Yeah, the one actual like technology company I've had that I like refuse to do business with now for my own personal experiences is MSI. I have had so many fucking dead MSI motherboards. It's like I'm just not gonna fucking play this game anymore.
And I'm sitting here looking at my one MSI motherboard that never died, thinking, man, don't you die on me now.
I've had fucking 5 of them that were dead. 5.
I have also had a lot.
Yeah. I kept ending up with Asus motherboards. It's like I'm not in love with them, but like the deals kept being too good for me to say no. And they've pretty much just worked. So I'm like, you know what? This is
actually, now that you say that, I actually think that I have... Oh, I don't have NeoFetch installed on here. What the hell? I'm pretty sure that I ended up with a gigabit motherboard because I think my last MSI, they couldn't replace it.
Yeah, Gigabyte's decent.
Yep, it's Gigabyte.
Time they were selling power supplies that would explode and kill your video card during the video card shortage. That was amusing.
But hey, dude, that is all the time we have. We're actually over by about 20 minutes. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
We will have to get you on again because this has been a great time.
Yeah, we can get you as a regular. Have you come on every once in a while here? And
yeah.
there's always plenty to talk about, whether it's computers or cars. Like,
oh god, yes, I can talk about anything damn near continuously.
yeah,
And now I get to go plow my freaking farm drive. Hell yeah.
oh yeah. I think I'm gonna eat my cold Taco Bell, and that'll be pretty much the end of my night.
I have probably another 2 or 3 hours of work.
Oh boy.
Yay!
But I'll probably get this episode. I'll probably get this episode out to Thursday night. So just listen. For all listeners that now heard me say that, this one will be late, even though you got it late.
Yeah. Yeah. Busy times right now.
But all right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, we'll see you later.